Welcome to What Car Should You Buy, a weekly show where we debate the merits of various cars, and then Reddit starts a thread where they debate whether or not I'm a robot created by the CarMax Corporation. Unless you were the bad guy in an 80s high school movie, your first car was probably a poorly designed tin can assembled by people who think it's okay to play sports with your feet, also known as communists. But that's okay because teenagers are stupid. Do we really want to give them any more car than they can handle? Have you seen the kind of damage they can do with a cell phone? This leads us to the big question today. Is it better to give a teenager something big so they can't hurt themselves, or something small so they can't hurt anyone else? Should a kid learn to drive on something rear-wheel drive with a stick and some power so they'll have those skills for life? Or is it better to give a kid something with essentially no engine? Let's talk cars. My guests today are Nicole Conlan, Jalopnik weekend editor and executive producer of this show, who dresses like the teenage manager of a Hot Topic, and Jeannette Klein, event coordinator of the Classic Car Club Manhattan, who is so responsible that she's surrounded by supercars, video games, and alcohol all day and is not yet in prison. Thank you both for being here. Let's talk about your first cars. Nicole, what were you driving?
I drove a 99 Subaru Outback.
99 Outback.
99 Outback. We're both from Colorado. That is, I think, the quintessential
Colorado first
Colorado high school car.
Yeah. So what did you think of your Outback?
Oh, it was the best. If I still had it, I'd still drive it. It was so good.
It was that good. How long did you have this?
I had it. So I think the first time I got my learner's permit when I was like 14 and some change.
Right.
And then I drove it through the end of high school.
That's Colorado doling out learner's permits at 14.
Yeah.
But it lasted you the whole time.
Yeah, it lasted me the whole time, and then my sister had it a few years after I went to college.
And then it went to your sister, so she had it in high school too.
Yeah, so that was like an 8-year teenage car, and then it finally kicked the bucket, hit the bucket.
So this car went through winter after winter.
Oh, many winters, and it went through that part of winter where you see both skis and bikes on the top of the car.
Right. This car lasted, so that's a good first car. Jeannette, what were you driving?
I had a Volkswagen Mark III Golf.
Mark III Golf.
Yes, specifically the later models when they worked out all the funky kinks.
Right. The Mark IIIs weren't really known for their dependability.
They were, of course they were. I had mine for just under 5 years. And
and you had no problem.
I only replaced the O2 sensors and the mass airflow sensor.
Which is a common Volkswagen
I should have replaced the tires, but yeah, that was it.
Well, you got lucky.
I don't know about that.
What is that car? Is that car still on the road today? Do you know?
You know what? I only sold it because it didn't make sense to have a car where I live now. But I do still own a VW Golf that I now race.
Okay.
So
What's that? Also a Mark III?
Also a Mark III.
Wow, so you're kind of committed to the Mark III.
I'm committed to VW all the way.
Yeah. I just drove a VW Golf for the first time and I loved it.
They're awesome.
They're great.
Seriously, my director, Zach is the owner of the car club, so he has a fleet of Ferraris and you name it, NSX, whatever. Right now his daily driver is a TDI.
Yeah, the new ones are certainly good.
All right, fine.
A lot of people like the new.
I see where you're going with this.
The 90s Volkswagen hadn't worked out that whole quality deal. There's not a lot of 90s Volkswagens still on the road. You know what I mean?
Well, there's
at least one on a racetrack.
Craigslist still.
They're all over Craigslist.
Either because people are trying to get rid of them, or I don't know what it exactly is. I just saw one for $1,500.
$1,500. So how much yours? How much was
mine? Was $1,900.
$1,900. So that's about where you think you ought to be on a first car.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, that is good kind of first car territory.
Yeah.
All right, so one of the things we wanted to talk about is new cars for a teenage driver. Now, we posed this question on the website, on Jalopnik, and a lot of people were a little bit negative about the idea of buying a new car for a teenage driver. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think it's a bad idea.
Bad idea. All right. How come?
Well, first of all, it takes years to develop yourself as a driver. I think it's more than just worrying about, oh, will I crash on the road? It's also like, don't you want to be able to learn how to tinker with your car and
things that a teenager maybe should start to learn, even if it's not major mechanical stuff. Oil changes.
Just do your own oil change, or put an aftermarket exhaust on your car yourself. Or, I don't know, something.
This is the Mark III Golf.
Yeah,
threw an aftermarket exhaust on it.
I might have done that.
Nicole, how many aftermarket exhausts did you go through in the Outback?
I didn't throw any on it, but I did. Before it came into my possession, that car was totaled 3 times. Okay. And it survived because Subarus are made out of the hardest substance on earth.
Right. So that's interesting. So you think, would you recommend a new Subaru, for example, for a teenager?
I might. If I were going to recommend a new car, I'd probably recommend a new Subaru. So one of the things to think about if you're getting a car for a teenager is that's probably a car that they're going to drive to college with them. I went to college in the city 2,000 miles away, so driving to and from school wasn't really an option. But most kids go closer to home, or they go to a college that you can actually drive to and not NYU.
That's a good
and
point,
hopefully
yeah.
paid
There are
substantially
NYU
less
students
than
with
I did.
cars, though, right? Like they're crazy, but you walk
Are
around NYU,
there? Really?
you see out-of-state license plates when you walk around NYU. It's like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah,
Am
where
I
are you
wrong?
going?
Right? Like people,
Yeah.
they're crazy.
I mean, if you can afford the $200,000 tuition, you can
probably
probably
afford
afford
parking.
parking
Yeah,
in the city.
that's true.
Right.
Yeah.
But so if it's a car you're going to take to and from college every year, then it might be worth thinking about a hatchback because then you can put all your stuff in it.
Stuff, right?
Alternatively, you could go the other way and you could say, I don't want my teenage kid driving around with 7 other teenagers, so I'm going to get him a coupe, so they
Right.
can't cart around
Totally.
all their idiot friends. Having a Subaru hatchback. I know that there were times when my friends who didn't have cars would be like, let's all go somewhere, and we'd literally just put the seats down in the back.
You'd pile in Nicole's
like
car.
14
See,
people in the
nobody
back of
wanted
my
to
car.
do that with my car because it's such a tiny
Right,
little
it's too
thing.
small.
I mean, right behind me was the best seat because I'm like hugging the steering wheel because I'm 5'0". But it's really small. So and I definitely suggest getting your first car as a manual because most people, I mean, I feel like a lot of your classmates won't be able to borrow your car. and-
Right.
Oh, that's something I didn't even think about.
know?
I think it's better to just have to learn on a manual
Yes,
because
for
it makes
sure.
you better at driving either kind of car.
Right.
For sure.
And it makes you just like understand the mechanics of a car better. But it's really great to not have your because when you're 15
So
and the
many of
cool
my friends
senior
wanna
asks
borrow
to
my
borrow
car,
your
yeah.
cars, you're not gonna say no.
That's true.
Oh,
Did that
you don't
happen?
know how to drive manual? Oh, sorry.
Are you speaking from
Raleigh
experience?
Williams said
Oh,
that
yeah.
he would take me to prom and I could let him drive my car.
Was your Subaru an automatic or a manual?
It was an automatic. My dad had a Subaru manual. Both my parents at one point had
Manual
Subaru
Subarus.
wagons.
God, this is
and his was a manual and my mom's was an automatic. And then I inherited the automatic.
right. Understood.
But I've driven both.
So you're saying if you would recommend a new car, you'd recommend a Subaru. Would you recommend a new car? Do you think you had a used car?
No, I wouldn't. I would like if you have to buy your kid a new car because you can't give them one of yours and for whatever reason you don't know how Craigslist works, then I guess I would recommend a Subaru.
Right.
But I mean, I remember I was on the golf team in high school, and I remember one day one of our friends had like a real bucket, and we were just like, let's hit golf balls at that car.
Ooh.
And that's the
good.
kind of thing that teenagers do. Like, I put
Right.
stickers on
Right.
everything I own as a teenager. I don't want to give a teenager a new car
Yeah.
and then have them draw on it in Sharpie.
Right. So we agree. Probably new car is the out. Of the
Yeah.
industry.
Yeah, I mean,
I
I'd say
wouldn't.
so.
I went to college at a place where people bought their kids new cars. In BMW. I had an old Audi, which was like
wow.
where we spent like $8,000 on it or something. But people did that, and the kids, there was sort of like an expectation that the kids would treat them well, and they of course didn't,
Yeah.
But people do
Because
that.
you can't be faulted if you're 17 and you don't know how to take
yeah.
care of a car. You don't know how to do anything when
Exactly.
you're 17.
But there are people who do this, It's
Yeah.
kind of crazy.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen it a
there's some
bunch.
judgment here.
Not saying I was envious at all, but I've
Driving
seen
around
it.
the Mark III when your windows wouldn't go up or down.
Maybe this is even tough. You could make the argument that some of the safety features in newer cars might.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that. So, I mean,
Yeah.
Mark III GTI, Mark III Golf, and in a 98, you said Subaru?
99.
99. So
Yeah,
you got
mine was around
front
that time
airbags.
too, yeah.
You got
You
front
do have
airbags, but
airbags.
you have side airbags. You might not have anti-lock
Side
brakes.
airbags, yeah.
You don't have any of the new forward collision and blind spot warning and all the crap that modern cars have.
You don't need that.
Let's
That's
pretend,
driver assistance
let's
stuff.
pretend you're a parent
All right.
for a second here. You
Okay.
got a little kid.
Oh, my mother did sort of flip a shit a little bit.
Right, I
Sorry.
mean, isn't there a concern? Aren't you like scared that
Oh
your
my
kids...
God! I came home with
'Cause
this
the Golf
car,
is a small car.
and I came home, and right away, like the aftermarket exhaust was waiting at the car club for me to put it on. So I brought it home, and it was like, brum, 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 brum. And my mother is like crazy protective Ecuadorian, and she's like, "Pero what is this that you bring home?" She had a heart attack for
Right,
sure.
and I mean, that's a legitimate concern, is it not? Are we not worried about that a little bit?
You know what? My car got sideswiped by a huge truck, and it was fine. And I beat the crap
you got
out
lucky.
of it, and it
Let's
was
be honest
fine.
here. You're also driving in the city, and there's not speeds aren't reached that high in the city. In Colorado, when you drive on
Oh yeah, that's true.
we're on the country roads and stuff, or if you are, sometimes you are, even on normal roads.
You say country roads as though there's no metropolitan place in Denver. We all live off of dirt roads.
When I went to
picture you
college,
painting right
when I went
now.
to college in Georgia, one person asked me if we ski to work.
Somebody has asked me that too. Somebody asked me if I've ever ridden a moose, and I was like, "What?
Is that a thing?
No."
That would be interesting.
First of all,
no,
moose
so
are like 8 feet tall, but
and they're really aggressive. So anyway, so fine. But
And they're
regardless, so
really
you're the speed limits are like 45, 50 miles an hour sometimes on even normal streets.
Mm-hmm.
You get hit. I mean, that's scary. Wouldn't you want your kid to be in a car that's maybe a little safer than the ones that you guys had?
I mean,
Yeah.
my mother would have preferred so, but I'm going to argue that it was a safe car. It was a safe car, and it's also small.
I think
so
it really
you're-
depends. I wouldn't want to be in like an excursion in New York City. I would argue that that's
No.
less safe.
Probably not. In New
You
York
also
City-
have more room on the road to maneuver, and it's easier to handle a smaller car when you first start. Plus, parking is probably easier as a new driver with something
kids
small.
do dumb stuff, right? So
Yes.
kids get up, big speed on some road and they're racing their buddy. I don't know. This happens. I mean, regardless of whether it's good or not, it happens, right? So they crash into stuff. I mean, it'd be nice as a parent. You probably want your kid surrounded by as many airbags as you can possibly find, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Then there is also the question, like some airbags, like cars need airbags. I'm going to go on the record and make a really controversial statement and say that airbags are good.
Yeah.
But there's other like safety features that kind of occasionally make the cars less safe. I personally find that with anti-lock brakes, I don't know how much they're actually helping. I've found that I've skidded out more in cars with anti-lock brakes than without.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, though, the more the merrier when it comes to protecting your child, right?
Sure.
Sure.
If you're
Yeah.
a parent,
Yes.
I've always felt that, in my opinion, the greatest first car is a Toyota Land Cruiser. I would get my kid like a 15-year-old
Land
Land
Cruiser.
Cruiser because they're reliable, they'll run forever. And there's a lot of stuff around you, and they're reasonably safe.
They're
But
pretty
they had
top
airbags.
heavy,
Sure.
though.
I mean,
I guess
if-
not if it's
Yeah,
a-
and the kid's got to deal with that.
But like send your kid out in a tank if that's like really a concern.
that is
I
a
don't
great
know.
idea. Do they make tanks with airbags? What do
Probably.
tanks cost, do you think?
No.
Classic Car Club should pick up a
tank.
A tank. That would be
Let's
really
compare
Yeah,
that to
if
that.
it's-
We have a
if it's
Bronco.
If it's
We have a
hard to
Bronco.
drive an SUV through Manhattan, what are we going to do with a tank?
Well,
I'm also speaking
what
from like a
bridge are we
city girl
going over?
perspective.
Part of this is
so-
definitely a where you live kind of deal.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, when I was a kid, I didn't have to worry about parking. That wasn't a thing. We had a driveway.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, that's such a thing.
And in
That's
Queens-
literally the only reason I sold the car.
Right.
So they
It's
can't find
right.
parking anywhere.
No, I
and
mean-
Zach or Mike are like, don't bring that around the car club. It's like you're making us look bad.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So, other than the cars that you guys had, what other kind of used vehicles would you recommend? Aside from the Toyota Land Cruiser, which is obviously the top choice.
I hate the obvious choice of, because it's boring, but like Honda Civic.
Civic
You know?
Civic is the reliable Golf.
They're come on. Seriously, 5 years, barely any maintenance. It's a great car.
Well,
I mean, the thing
There's a
that-
reason almost like 4.5 million sold.
yes.
The other
You
thing
know?
that is
People have low standards.
good mileage. Teenagers don't make a lot
Good
of money.
mileage.
Good mileage.
know,
But
four
that's one of the
cylinder.
reasons I
Yes.
like the Land Cruiser. It gets terrible mileage. It forces them to get a job.
That's true. I won't argue with that.
That's a reasonable.
true.
That's a reasonable idea.
All right, Dad.
Yeah.
Seriously.
You got to think about that kind of stuff.
I bought that car with my own money.
Look,
$1,900 a year.
And every time I filled up that tank, $25, that was my own money.
Right.
You know?
So we're saying something fuel efficient, Honda Civic. Nicole, your thoughts?
I mean, still, again, this is just coming from Colorado, which is, I mean, I haven't owned a car
Since then.
since I lived in Colorado. So anytime I go home, it's still all Subarus all the time. So I would probably still recommend that. Honestly, I don't hate the Ford Focus for a kid because
Yeah.
the mileage isn't bad, the price is right, especially if you're buying new. That's probably one of the more affordable cars with all the features. There's actually, I want to say the Mazda.
Was it
The Mazda 3,
Mazda 3,
the
Mazda
Mazda
2,
3's got a lot of
Mazda 3.
safety stuff.
Yeah.
In fact, the car that has the most safety stuff for the price is actually the Subaru Impreza.
That doesn't surprise me at
They
all.
got the forward collision now, and they got automatic braking. It'll stop you at 30 miles an hour, and they have all sorts
Oh, that's
of.
cool.
They all have all. I mean, it's optional, but it's cheap. It's a cheap option. You can get them for like low mid-20s with that stuff, and that's a pretty well-equipped car
If
and
we're
all-wheel
talk-
drive.
Yeah, if we're talking new, I would go with the Scion FRS because I feel like you
Oh,
can't
yeah.
get into too much trouble with that
Yeah,
car.
it's not that
But it's
bad.
still really fun and it's affordable for a new car, I guess. I
Yeah.
still wouldn't get.
You
a
still
new
wouldn't,
car
but you
for a
just wouldn't do a new
teenager.
car. We all
I
are
just-
kind of in
yeah,
agreement about that.
yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, unless you're
stuff.
just insanely wealthy.
Then go for it.
But nobody who's watching our YouTube, our
Yeah.
particular YouTube channel, probably is in that situation.
Still can't
If you
afford
can
an
afford to
FRS.
buy your teenager a
If
new
you're-
car,
if
then
you're
you
buying-
don't need
yeah,
to
if you're buying your
turn
kid
to
a new car.
free car advice on the internet.
You're not listening to us. We don't know what the hell we're talking about. My first car was a $6,500 Volvo. Okay, and it was
Volvo, also made out of the hardest substance. Whatever
Yeah.
Volvos
That's
and
what I
Subarus
hear,
are made
yeah.
out of.
Yeah, I miss that car. It's still on the road somewhere in Fort Collins, and yeah, the people are happily driving it. I don't know the people, but I Carfax it every so often, and I wish to myself that I could have that car back. So we liked our own first cars. You guys were big fans of your proponents of your own first cars. You would
Yeah.
recommend them to other people.
Yeah, I
Most
do wonder if
definitely.
it's just maybe a nostalgia thing. Now that I'm hearing that everybody loved their first car, they were all different cars.
I have this theory. It's funny you say that, because I have this theory that your first car wasn't even near as good as you remember. And I I drove. I had the opportunity to drive a Volvo, the same exact car I had several years later, and it was a total piece of crap. And I thought to myself, like, I can't believe I like this thing so much. But I think it was just, you know, you look at it like, oh, that was when I was learning to drive in high school. I had so many memories.
Yeah. Your first taste of freedom.
But then you drive other cars, and you're
that
like,
part
this
of it.
is awful.
Yeah.
You know, you wouldn't really want to drive around in a 99 Outback for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I will say that the one thing that I definitely remember is my cousin came to town, and she was like 25 or something, and she tried driving my car. She was like, there is no pickup. I'm flooring it right now. We were going like 30. I do remember it did take like almost a full minute to get up to 60.
But at the time, when you're a kid, and the Golf was probably pretty slow too. It was 115.
Yeah, the Golf is like you're always flat out. You're always about to redline the
right.
car.
When you're a kid, though, that doesn't really matter. Plus, you have nothing to compare it to. So
Yeah,
you
That's true.
Yeah,
it's
that's
probably
true.
best to have something like that for your
I
kid.
just thought that meant I was like really fast. Like, oh, I
Yeah.
must be super
I'm pushing
fast.
this car as hard as it can go.
7,000 RPM at every
Obviously,
upshift.
I'm a good driver.
Right.
So, no, let's do this.
Let's talk about, since we feel that it's kind of location dependent, we all kind of feel like we have the right cars for our spots. Let's talk about if you're in the city or if you're not in the city, what do you think the best teenage car would be, Nicole?
If you're not in the city, I'm still gonna give it to a Subaru. Any four-wheel drive hatch is probably fine, but for your money, I think almost always gonna be a Subaru is gonna be.
Just as we're going to watch
best
for the
bet
head
for-
gasket problems.
Just watch for the head gasket
Try to
problem.
avoid
Although
that.
I think in everything after like 2005,
They claim that's
not
true.
really
They
an
claim
issue.
that's true. I don't have personal experience, but they've said that, and people seem to back that up.
Yeah. So if you can get like an after 2005 hatchback Subaru, then I think you'll be in good shape.
Right. Okay. So let's pretend you live in New York. You've been in New York 10 years,
Yeah.
right? Let's pretend you had to buy a car for, you're in Queens, Brooklyn. People have cars there. Long Island. What would you get? What would you get if you had to get something for like an urban environment?
I mean,
Still the same kind of
probably a coupe. I mean, I do like the Ford Focus a lot. I think it's a good car, especially for a new driver. It's a pretty kind of idiot-proof car. Yeah.
Nice little car, safe, fuel efficient.
Yeah.
Honda Civic kind of deal too.
Yep.
All those, they're all in the same kind of realm, right?
Yeah.
All
Not
right.
the most exciting cars, but teenagers don't. Teenagers make their own excitement.
Yeah.
Teenagers make
They're
their
falling
own
in love. They're going to prom. They're getting into college. They don't need an exciting car.
Nicole
It's an
did
exciting
all
time
of
in your
those
life.
things in the 1999 Subaru.
I did. I did all those things.
All right, Jeannette. So, what about you?
I mean, I'm sticking to the Mark III
Mark
for
III is
in
the-
the city.
Mark III is a good city car.
Yeah.
What about like a Beetle? Those new Beetles, people like those. It's the same exact
Like,
car.
unless it's a vintage rallied out Beetle, I have zero, or like a
What do you have?
Baja
What do you
What
have
our
kind of
dear
Beetle.
friend Raphael Orlov has.
What do you
Yeah.
have against the new Beetle? They're cheap now. And it's the same motor and same running gear. on
It's just awful looking. It's just I don't even know. It's not even a Malibu Stacy car. It's just like I don't even know.
It's like your mom bought you clothes.
Yes.
You know? It's
Oh my
like,
God.
When
It's
that
like your
car-
mom went to
Analogy.
Kohl's and bought you a car.
Let me tell you something. When that
what
car
it
came out, that was the coolest thing. I mean, they couldn't keep those on
When
the
it
lot.
came out.
Yeah, it's a shame
There was
what's
a time
happened.
when the PT Cruiser was like a big deal too.
Both of those cars were great.
When
Did you get
was
a PT
that?
Cruiser?
When did that happen?
For about 6
Did
months
I
in
miss that?
2001, the PT Cruiser was the
The
hottest
PT
thing
Loser
in the
was
world.
never.
They were
Burn, take that PT Cruiser owners.
Sorry.
in 01, they were selling those for sticker, which is insane because later they could only sell them to Enterprise and they were selling them for wholesale. But anyway, so you got the Mark III Golf.
How do you know all of this?
Anyway, so Mark III Golf in the city.
Mark III Golf in the city. Suburban kind
Pretend
of a
you're
car.
a normal person. Pretend you grew up on Long Island.
Pretend I grew up on Long Island and I had more money.
Well, I don't necessarily more money.
No, well, okay.
You're saying people on Long Island generous. But
No,
fine,
no,
pretend
no,
you're from
I'm
the
just
South
saying,
Shore.
Okay. For old car or for new car?
You're getting
Any
a
car.
kid
in
car.
general?
Yeah.
I mean, totally unnecessary for a teenager, but I'd get like a CTSV wagon.
Okay,
or
well,
something.
yeah, if you're spending like 60 grand, you want to get your kid a car.
Okay, fine.
I think we should get the kids a Bugatti Veyron.
I mean, I think FRS is great.
FRS.
BRZ, FRS, whatever. If you have 25 to 30K to spend, it's, front engine, rear wheel drive, nicely balanced. Like I said, I don't think you can get yourself in too much trouble with that.
So we're sort of behind getting reliable hatchback type vehicles for your kids, or something slow enough that they don't kill themselves.
Yeah.
I just
Or-
think it's great to like learn things with your car, and with some of these new cars, they have so many driver assists and this and that it's kind of preventing you from becoming a real driver. I think. I don't know.
Right. Unfortunately, you guys are wrong. The answer is still the Toyota Land Cruiser. The finest first car ever. There was a kid in my high school that had a Toyota Land Cruiser. I was so jealous of him. It was a 4-speed manual, and it was so cool. And now he lives in Boulder, and he's still so cool, and I'm not.
He's still so cool.
I'm sitting here in my parents' basement. All right, well, thank you, ladies, very much for coming in. I appreciate it. And up next, we're going to talk used cars with Tavarish, even though we've kind of already done that.
Hey, is your mom upstairs?
Yeah, she's up there.
Cool, I'm going to go say hi.
Okay, you do that.
All right.
Yeah.
We're good friends. I've heard stories.
Oh, boy. Many of you who regularly read Jalopnik know Tavarish as the guy who convinced you to buy a dozen slightly used battery tenders instead of the one new pacemaker your grandpa really needed. Now he's here every week to counter our new car bias by finding the best used car you can get for the same price online, culled from reader responses. What do you have for us today, Tavarish?
Well, Doug, a funny thing happened when I posed this question. About half of the commenters asked me if I had a silver spoon up my ass, and the other half asked me what kind of silver it was.
Ha!
Apparently $25,000 is a seemingly astronomical amount for a first-time buyer.
Yeah.
Which means that if you're bargain hunting, you can find something more than suitable for a fraction of that price.
Makes sense.
Well, the first car we have is a 2014 Subaru Impreza Wagon Limited, suggested by Brian Griffin. A fitting suggestion for that guy, considering it's probably the most dog-friendly car there is.
Yeah, you can just throw your pooch in the back.
Exactly. I mean, even this car, it's a brand new car. It's only 1 year old, has about 9,000 miles on it, and it's 16 grand.
Right.
So you have, a lot of money left for tuition or whatever. This car is just bland enough to work. I mean, it has the safety that you'd want in a new car. It gets pretty decent gas mileage. It's not the turbo model, but it is an all-wheel drive model, so it's good in the snow. You can't really go bad, you can't really go wrong with this.
Right. It's a little bit of a dull car, but maybe that's all you really need if you're like.
Yeah, I mean, it'll hold all your friends, and I'm pretty sure that you won't really kill the value too much if you bump it on a fender or the.
And they're reliable, right? This is Subaru's famous for this stuff.
Exactly. I mean, you're gonna
go
have
and go and go.
The EJ Boxer engine, so yeah, it's just gonna go forever until the head gasket blows.
Oh, poor Subaru. Those days are over, aren't they?
I hope so. I certainly hope so.
Whoever buys this car will find out soon enough.
But 9,000 miles, I'm sure you'll have many, many thousands of trouble-free miles.
You can get at least 3 years out of that head gasket.
Yeah, at least 3 years.
Yeah. All right. Okay. All right. Well, what else you got?
Well, the next car we have is a 2000 Mazda Miata, and that's
the NB.
The NB, yes, it's a second generation.
Right.
And that's suggested by Arrivederci and Anti-Lag.
Okay.
Now this one it's 7 grand, so it's on the top end of the used Mazda market.
Right.
But the thing is, this one only has 50,000 miles on it.
Right. So it hasn't been run out. It's a weekend car. Weekend car.
Yeah,
it's a stick shift, I assume.
Yes, a stick shift.
They made them autos. They made some autos. They were slow, I bet. I don't know.
I mean, this car, they're not the fastest things in the world.
No.
But they're very nimble, and I think for a first-time driver, it's just controllable enough that you'll learn the limits of the car, without being just thrust into a tree or the nearest ditch.
Right. I mean, if you're going to give a kid a rear-wheel drive 2-seat convertible, Miata is probably a good buy because you're not gonna be doing stoplight drag races, unless you're racing like a meter maid.
I mean, you could probably do some emo donuts in the parking lot.
You could do some parking lot donuts, but that's about all the trouble you'll get into, and you'll probably be okay unless you hit a pole and end up on YouTube.
Because the thing with first-time drivers and teens specifically is that they're more of a liability than the other guy is.
That's true.
Yeah. So when you're more of a liability, you have to be more alert. With a Miata, you're always alert.
You're alert. You can do whatever you want. Boom.
You can't fall asleep in a Miata. If that guy is gonna T-bone you, you're nimble enough to get out of the way.
Right.
It's kind of like in a motorcycle, you always have to be kind of on your, just on point.
Makes sense. I understand that. Yeah. I think that's a reasonable point. I think a Miata is a pretty good first car.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. So what else you got?
Well, the last one is a car that I actually owned. I mean, not this particular car, but one just like it.
Probably a good thing.
Yeah. This one is a 1999 Nissan Maxima, and that's brought to us by a user named Ghost Z.
Ghost Z.
Yeah, sounds like he has an album dropping soon.
Yes,
yeah.
And we'll pick it up. It'll be Maxima.
Yeah, it spits hot fire,
Oh my God.
So yeah, I mean, this Maxima is it's about $2 grand, and it has
$2 grand.
Yeah, okay. $2,000. And in a $25,000 budget, that's 90% is left over.
Yeah,
for
you're
whatever
saving
you
23 grand. I mean, that's a pretty good situation.
Yeah.
Anytime you can save 23 grand is something you want to. That's probably something you want to get into.
I mean, there's a reason for the $2 grand. The car does have 150,000 miles on it, but the VQ engine that's in this car, it's a 3.0 V6. It's very stout. It's very reliable. It's a timing chain. You don't have to change any belts.
Right.
It doesn't particularly leak anything. It's not known for any defects. What's interesting about the Maxima is that it was also very light. The GXC is 2,900 pounds.
2,900 pounds.
Yeah.
And 200 horsepower.
Yeah, 200 horsepower.
That thing was, in 99, that thing must have been really cool. Because it came out in 95. That body came out in 95.
Yeah.
That must have been really cool back then.
Honestly, for people that if you're looking specifically for Maximas, I would get the 98 because the 99s had problems with the coil packs. That's when they changed the coil packs from like Mitsubishi to a company called Hanshin. So when the coil packs went out, like they just go bad on the 99s, and the 99s had a bunch of California emissions equipment that also clogs up the engine. So 98s are the ones you want. Or if you want to go newer, I'd go up to maybe an 01, which still has a 3 liter.
Right, but that's the bigger body style, right?
It's a bigger body style, but it might be a little bit nicer. But it's still, you're going to get something within 3-4
But they
grand
still had
range.
the stick then.
They still had the stick. They had the stick all the way until I think I want to say.
Did they do it on the weird coin slot looking one? They had a stick on that?
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
that's great. I'd love to have a stick one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a weird looking
They had a 6-speed in that one.
Freddie.
Yes.
Nissan Maxima expert,
yes.
ladies and gentlemen. Well, thank you, Tavarish.
Thank you.
And thank you to everyone for tuning in. We'll be talking about all the cars in the comments below and on Jalopnik. And don't forget to subscribe for some more great Jalopnik videos. But before you go, I leave you with this question. If we drive on a parkway but park on a driveway, who the hell are the 5,800 people who bought a Nissan Murano Cross Cabriolet?
Doug, come upstairs. Your cousin Jen is going to be on the local news.
Oh boy, what for, Mom?
She almost drowned.
Oh, I can't wait to see that, Mom. I'll be up in a second.
It's starting.
Okay.
Dude, you can crash on my couch if you want.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Nissan Maxima expert. Hey man, it could be worse. You could be an ultimate expert. Who the hell are the 5,800 people who bought a Nissan Murano Cross Cabriolet?
Oh, Doug, I was asleep. I'm sorry. I forgot again.
Nimble as hell.
That's fine. That's fine.
Just like the
let it.
S10 Extreme.
I used to have a computer teacher that you got to let it go through its motions. Like you have no idea what you're doing.